Welcome to the Cincy Postcast, powered by Gold Star, Cincinnati's favorite match day meal. I'm Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our friends over at Streetside Brewery. Such good friends. Absolutely love Streetside. They have been so good to us all year long, sponsoring the postcast. It is an awesome brewery. If you have not made it out there, or if you've not tried one of their beers, I cannot stress how much you are missing out. They are awesome. So they do all varieties, all types of beers, but they really do some key special releases throughout the year that is just awesome. And coming up on the 21st of December, they've got Return of the Mac Day. You can celebrate the winter solstice all day with 4 variants of Return of the Mac. Kicks off at 10 a.m., $12 15-ounce pours in custom heavy-duty mugs. Look, this is what I'm talking about. This is what Streetside offers you. It is awesome. Hey, whenever you're there, maybe not on the special event day, but whenever you're there, drop the postcast this holiday season, and they will knock $1 off of your beer when you're cashing out your tab. Awesome setup there at Streetside. Cannot stress it enough. Over on the east side of Cincinnati, Columbia, Tusculum, but they also distribute. So go check them out. Go look in your local refrigerator, your local beer cave. See if you can't find yourself some Streetside. So huge thank you to Streetside for sponsoring this and so many other episodes of the postcast this year. And on today's episode, it's full of news. I thought we'd be done with this, but it is full of news. In part 1, Alvaro Barreal is still on this team. There's some new rumors out there. He's posting photos from the hospital. We'll talk about what's the latest with that. What could happen there? We also touch on the Columbus Crew relocating to Cleveland, at least for one game. But what is going on up in Cleveland? What is going on up in Columbus? I can't keep track of where they are anymore. We also hit on, of course, the disappointing reporting surrounding the NWSL expansion bid that may not be heading to Cincinnati, but don't give up your hopes. It's a good conversation. We wrap it up in part 2 with your Patreon questions. And it's a lovely episode of the Cincy Postcast. Joining me to talk about all of that and more, I've got 2 gentlemen here. I don't know how to introduce this one. Are ready for the off season to begin? I feel like you've done that in the last 4 weeks. When does it stop, Chief? When does it stop?
Oh, it never stops. The grind is year round.
We just got teased the calendar for next year.
We knew this was going to happen the day we recorded, though, that there was no chance they were going to drop it in time for us to actually record an episode.
Yeah.
Sad.
Our old way of getting the dates ahead of time has not been reliable either, so that's a bummer.
No, they're evolving. They're changing.
Grayson, do you like constantly being engaged, or would you rather there be a big break that you can take here?
I don't think we have any choice. I mean,
the only way out is up.
Like we're in it. We're in it now, brother.
This is it.
This has to be the last big thing, right? Like, we release the schedule, and then what possibly can happen next?
Don't they report pretty soon after, just in a couple of weeks?
Once we get to January, we can say that the season starts next month.
I know they've I know that we're already well past the time when they gave everybody their individual off-season workout plans.
Right.
And yeah, I don't think they've announced it yet, but
yeah,
but they've announced the first game. It's February 19. right?
Everybody gets their individual off-season workout plans. You know, you tell Nick Hagglund, keep getting the knee healthy, keep getting the leg healthy. You tell Luca Orishano, get ready to play up top more, and apparently tell Alvaro Barreal, post as many pictures of yourself with medical problems and post as many problems online as possible and completely tank your transfer value. Do that.
He's not the best salesman, let's say.
No.
You know, there's a lot of jokes about how, like, you know, once an athlete flames out, they'll be selling insurance. Barreal will not be selling insurance.
No, he reminds me of Gil from The Simpsons, where it's, you know, selling the Compaq or the Compaq or the Tandy computers to Springfield Elementary. It's like, and you're going to want to buy the Rust package on these because these babies will rust like nobody's business if you don't buy the Rust package. Just what?
Huh?
Make the sale, Gil. Make the sale.
I mean, we should probably start there. Alvaro Barreal is still on this team as of recording. I should say, though, that there was a tweet put out, I think it was today, from Christian Moret from Territorio MLS, which is a Portuguese outlet that covers MLS.
They're Brazilian, so Portuguese.
Yeah, Portuguese language. Sorry. Yes.
They had I was first introduced to them when they got an interview with like Brenner right after we signed him.
Yeah.
And there's a few of those guys. I don't really know what their deal is exactly.
Yeah.
There seemed to be some mix of like pretty sly aggregation.
A lot of aggregation.
This guy in particular has been like yelled at for doing aggregation by people he aggregated before. Agent puffery.
Yeah.
And then occasionally they'll like nail something, but it's usually something that like I'm just like a little suspicious of them. Like, not that they're like wrong all the time, right? Or it's like always based on nothing. But I don't know how many times they've had like a scoop that either nobody else had and wasn't something that, you know, you could just say. Like last year, they had something about like, you know, FC Cincinnati interested in bringing back Santiago Arias, and he's exploring options.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay, yeah. They declined his option and said that they were negotiating with him.
Some great investigative journalism right there. He may sign or he may not.
I don't want to be too hard, but this feels in the, which doesn't mean it's fake, but it does feel in the like agent or intermediary Fed camp.
Yeah. So the tweet, which I'm gonna need just a tiny hint of help here. They said Vittoria, which I assume is the team. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Vittoria is interested in signing Alvaro Barreal from FC Cincinnati, who was on loan to Cruzeiro, and then they throw in a Leao. I assume that's like the GM.
That must be like the sporting director or the coach. I don't know. I'm aware that Vittoria is a team in Brazil.
I wanted to just make sure I wasn't flip-flopping them. But they're saying let's say the sporting director is trying to get a loan, but the North American club prefers to sell and is asking for $4 million. I guess my first question here is, a loan? Like, a loan doesn't help us, right? Unless it's he plays for 1 minute.
Leao is their nickname.
Oh, okay.
It seems to mean lion in
there
Portuguese.
Oh, yeah, I'll be right at home.
Yeah, because like the first thing that pops up is Mascate do Vitoria, and it's
perfect.
Cool. Like that would be great. Like somebody's the Portuguese version of the postcast is talking about Gary doing the negotiation on behalf of FC Cincinnati. This Gary guy we keep hearing about.
This Gary's a tough negotiator.
Yeah.
I mean, Chief and Grace, you guys have been on this better than I have. I don't see how a loan helps us. Like, well, his salary isn't necessarily the problem, right?
There's a couple of different things. My understanding is that depending on what the loan fee is, there is a potential to convert the loan fee into GAM of some sort, which would offer roster relief.
Okay.
And if it's an issue of that there is a purchase obligation attached to the loan, not an option, but an obligation, where it's just like, hey, our finances aren't in a position right now to make the full transfer. We'll be in a better position to make the full transfer at the end of the year or during the summer window, whenever it is. If there is a purchase obligation, then my guess is FC Cincinnati would probably be given permission by MLS to borrow against future GAM earnings from the sale, as long as it's going to happen this year. But it would have to be something where it's ironclad locked on. Like we had thought there was some sort of we had all thought, or at least I did with Cruzeiro, that there was a purchase option that was going to get triggered at some point by how much he was playing, or the deal didn't make sense otherwise. I still don't understand why the deal was structured to let them get out of it so easily, but that's neither here nor there. So it's not to say that a loan doesn't help FC Cincinnati. It would all depend on how it's structured, what the fee is, what money's coming back, and what sort of the end game is. But those are all outside cases. The reality is that in most cases, loans don't help the way sales do in terms of the cap number that FC Cincinnati is looking at fixing. It would have to be a very creatively structured loan in order to do that. And I think they have one more option year on Barreal.
I was going to ask that.
This is it.
All right. This is it. So that's the other part of this that doesn't make any sense, is that if they loan him out this year, there's nothing to sell at the end. Yeah. And so, you can throw that out the window unless there is some other option or there is something that has triggered automatically in his contract, which I can't fathom how that would be the case. But unless there is something else that's triggered to give them control past this year, you can throw the part about a purchase obligation and borrowing against that right out the window. So I don't see, unless you just don't want him on the team and he doesn't want to be here, I don't see how a loan makes any sense for FC Cincinnati unless the loan fee is so high that you may as well sell him anyway.
Right. And the thing with the loan is, I guess, like, you could do an obligation where even at the end of the contract, you reach an agreement with Vittoria where, okay, if you sign him, I know he's in a contract this year, but if you end up signing him, you're agreeing that you're going to pay us a transfer fee anyway. But that would only be enforceable against Vittoria. He could go sign anywhere else in the world for free and we don't get anything. Yeah. So I like, unless you get like a really creative situation like Chief was describing, which are unusual. Like, I find it unusual or unlikely that there would be a loan that Vittoria would be willing to pay a significant loan fee for a player that they might not sign.
Right.
Because part of the reason you, like, when you transfer a player in, you also renegotiate them to a longer term contract. This is a guy who's in the last year of his deal. So if they don't sign him, they'll have given us a big loan fee for nothing. Right?
Yeah.
For a year of a player who, another team in the same league had him for a year and decided for whatever reason not to keep him around. I know situations are complicated. It's not necessarily the player's fault or a reflection of the player's abilities. I think there was a coaching change at one point in time.
There was at least one. Yeah.
There was at least one for Cruzeiro. So, it's not necessarily, a poor reflection on Barreal, just like it's not a poor reflection on Kevin Kelsey that we didn't exercise his purchase option. Right. And so, but you gotta, like, it just really feels to me like a guy who tanked his value. for no reason. And I know there's a couple of things people might say. They might say, oh, well, he wanted to go play in his more natural position. Well, you're not like born in a position, right? Like there's a position, like by natural position, they mean like favorite position.
Yeah. Right. His position is not your culture. Okay.
Your natural position is the position that they play you professionally at, that you're the most effective in a professional league at playing. And I'm like, I love what he's done for us at left wing back, but he was an unremarkable winger who showed you flashes, but wasn't, a star. And they weren't at the beginning of, was it 2022? They weren't, reworking the lineup to get him on field as winger like they were for Orishano this year, for example. Right.
Right.
And, he made MLS All-Star as a left wing back. Was he best 11? I don't
believe so. I think he was just an MLS All-Star. I don't think he made best 11.
Beat him to that spot.
Okay. But he was MLS All-Star, and I think he started at left. They started him at left back. They didn't do him any favors playing him left back in a back four against Bukayo Saka. Right. But he did, he did okay. All things considered. But if he'd played with us this year at left wing back, he would have been great. Like he would have looked, he would have probably looked incredible and would have commanded a transfer fee somewhere. Instead, he struggled to get minutes at a position that, I'm sorry, he's never looked convincing at as a professional. And, he's looking for somewhere else to play this year. And all because he held out of camp, last year, forced to move. I know there was a lot of drama over, how it was interpreted that he forced to move when Tom Bogert and Pat both reported that he had essentially forced his way out. And some people disputed that, but like, I'm sorry, like there's no way FC Cincinnati would have taken this had he not forced his way. It doesn't mean he doesn't like the fans. It doesn't mean he hates anybody listening to this specifically.
Oh,
it just means that
you listening to this right here, I'm talking to you specifically. He hates you.
You were the problem. Yeah.
You were the reason why he didn't come back. I'm only talking to the person, you listening to this, you in the car, you know who you are. He hates you.
I think it's somebody, maybe he got bad advice or he just panicked and thought, I need to go to another league. We said it at the time that going down to Brazil wasn't obviously a step toward Europe. That has proven to be the case. Just like apparently we'll see what happens with San Jose, but just like a step into Mexico was not necessarily a step toward Europe for Brandon Vasquez. You know? So, it's he's in a tough position. FC Cincinnati is, I think, in a tougher position because, they don't know what's going to happen with him in his roster spot. They don't know if they're going to get any transfer fee from him. They're essentially going to be asked, apparently, to just say, you can have our player for a year and then just keep him.
Please pay us a couple bucks for the convenience of having found him for you. Yeah.
It's like a rental car of a player. Like here, you can just have him for a year. And then if you like it enough, you can just sort of have it. Like we're getting rid of all these.
Let's assume that selling Barreal is not the only way out. I think that there are other creative solutions here. If we just go ahead.
No, hold on. There really aren't. Like there are other.
If he signs an extension, you could loan him.
Yeah, there are other creative solutions, but they're in the realm of like the dude in Mexico the Mexican theoretical physicist that came up with how to make a warp drive, like an FTL. Like step one is invent a state of matter that doesn't exist in the real world, like invent a matter with negative mass. There are ways to make this work, but it's theoretical. Like I don't recall, and Grayson, you tell me if you can think of anything off the top of your head, the last time anyone paid a substantial loan fee to an MLS club for a player that was going to be available on a free immediately afterwards. I mean, it sounds like we paid a pretty decent fee to get Joe Aquini on this team for this past season. But an MLS team loaning a player out where the loan fee was of the level that you could get a GAM conversion just from the loan fee, I don't think I've heard of it happening.
No.
The reason you haven't heard of it happening is because it's not something that anybody would ever publish. They don't typically publish loan fees. They don't say whether the loan fees get added to GAM or not. I do think that.
Do they have to run this by the league for a loan?
Yeah,
probably.
But those types of details just aren't typically reported out.
No, but what I'm wondering is, could the team say, yeah, we're loaning him to, what's the name of this club?
Victoria.
We're loaning him to Victoria, and the loan fee is $3 million. Don't check our math on that. Just, we'll just give us the GAM conversion.
Well, I think Barreal is a MLS contracted player, so I think the loan would be with MLS. So I think they're going to see the number. No, but
source, trust me, bro.
But what I mean is not so much the money we'd get for Barreal. I'm just sort of assuming that's not the case. It seems to me that the second best possible solution here is Barreal just plays for FC Cincinnati. It's the only way he increases his value. FC Cincinnati would sell him to buy a good player to play left wing back? I don't know. That kind of sounds like Alvaro Barreal to me. I don't see it.
So they're in a pickle. And there's been talk about Barreal being sold for multiple windows now.
Right.
There's never once been a real offer, apparently, that met any real valuation. The reporting from MLS journalists is that everybody still expects him to be sold this window. His value is it's lower.
They're not getting 4 million for him.
Right.
You're going to get 2, maybe 1.
Like his value is lower than it's ever been, probably.
Yeah.
Since like Jaap Stam was coaching this team.
Yeah.
So if they get any type of fee for him, Chris Albright's really done something. He's really done something like pretty spectacular. But the problem is his salary doesn't open up that much. So it doesn't let you sign a player who's equivalent, right?
Right.
But it opens up some. Like it opens up some salary. Yeah, if the problem is that this team is so strapped for not salary space, but just GAM. Like they are so strapped for the ability to do anything roster wise. And what's his number? It's on like $450,000, I think, is his salary number.
I think it's north of that. But
because his option probably included a little bit more.
Right. His option's higher. So it's probably closer to like what Brandon was at when he was here.
So like give me a number, like 700, 800?
Yeah, I would say 700-800.
Okay, so you got to think about this fourth dimensionally here. All right, this team is strapped for cash. They're strapped for cap space. His number isn't big. You know what 800,000 is? That's 3 U22 players, close to 4.
One Sergio Santos.
4.
Sorry,
not going to do that again for another episode. Look, it's 4 U22 players for a team that desperately is going to need to use its U22 spots to build depth.
They have Barreal's guaranteed comp at 900.
Ooh, that's a lot of money,
which is a lot. But the thing you got to remember is he wasn't reportedly on the salary budget last year. So him coming off of it doesn't reduce your salary budget of like carryover contracts.
Right.
Right.
It means you're like not, I mean, depending on what the math looks like, you might just be not 900K over the cap versus like now you're 900K under the cap.
Right. So, I mean, you want your case for a loan. Your case for a loan is that you're saving 900,000 and you can sign 4 U22 players this year,
or you're cap compliant.
Or you're cap compliant. If you can get $1 million in GAM, oh my God, over the moon. I know everyone. I liked Barreal when he was here. I loved it. I loved how he played. I love how he interacted with Lucho. There were some cool moments with him on that Supporters Shield winning team. We're nothing if not honest to you. If you're listening to the postcast, I'm telling you, I don't care what he's putting in his Instagram bio. I don't care who he's liking posts for. The math. And if someone wants to show me the math working, I'm open to it. The math does not work with him back on this team. It barely works with him just off the team and no increase to the GAM budget. But the math simply does not work for him on this team when you consider that the roster is already missing backups at a ton of places, and they're going to have to split his contract number in if it's truly they're saving the money and it's not just we have to get it off the books just to get back to where we were last year, like Grayson's saying. If they can save the money, that's a lot of players that they can fit under that number, because again, U22s only hit the budget at like 225,000 or 250,000. Regardless of what you pay them otherwise, and regardless of what their transfer fee is. Right. And if it's me,
it's
as much
150 or 200, depending on their age.
Yeah. So even 200, I'd rather have 4 U22s than 1 Barreal and take the chance that 2 of those work out, or that at least you've got competent bodies and depth and high upside players in your U22s.
This is annoying. Would you take 2 U22s and 1 Nick Haglund and 1 Yamil Assad? Because we haven't brought those guys back yet.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe Assad ends up on the supplemental roster, but maybe not.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I would. I think that I would rather have those 2 players plus 2 wild cards in the U22 signing. I would rather have that than Barreal back. I don't even think that's a particularly close call, to be honest with you.
Fair.
So my question is, did they not know when they were talking about championship windows that they were going to have this problem this year? Like when they, because they knew in the summer that they could sign a DP. They didn't really.
They tried.
Yeah. But coming out of it, it was basically like, what do you guys, is this still part of your championship window? The messaging was, yeah, we still think we have a championship window moving forward, but this year, anything could happen. Like it was.
What do you define? What do you define as champion? What do you define as a championship window, though?
Well, the expectation is to win an MLS Cup, or it is a failure. It is not a make the playoffs and we're good. Or,
the expectation is you're going to win a trophy this year. You can win a trophy, and by the end of the transfer window, the only trophy left for us was MLS Cup.
Yeah. Yeah. And look who played for MLS Cup. It was the Red Bulls. Like they weren't special. So to me, your championship window is, do you have a team that is capable of, that is the expectation is making the playoffs? You're in your championship window in MLS by definition if you have the ability to make the playoffs and if you show some competence to go win a road game.
Well, to me, it's like you come out of the window and you're like, well, we kind of punted to the winter and we're going to do stuff in the winter. That's at least the message I took from the summer was that we've kind of stabilized. We're going to do our best the rest of the year. We're going to do stuff in the winter. But like now the messaging seems to be, not only can we not really sign anybody, not only can we really like add significantly for next season, we can't even keep the players that we had.
If we got to cut everybody.
Not really. I mean, they went into this window and like, what did they not do in the summer window? They didn't sign a DP. Well, they signed a DP. They got a DP striker back.
Right, but now they got to win two. Now they got to win two trophies with Denke, because all they've done is delay is win a trophy later by signing a DP striker later.
Right. No, sure. And like, you get Matt Miazga back, you get Nick Hagelin back, which
sounds
is,
like people think, unless you're Matt Doyle, people don't think Lucio's going to be back.
Sure. But I mean, like when they said, like when they were punting to the winter, when you said, oh, they're going to punt to the winter, I'm pretty sure on their mind, Lucio Acosta deciding to force his way out of the lineup wasn't high.
Isn't that why you don't punt to the winter though? Because
well, I mean,
the only thing that exists is the here and now.
Sure. And in the here and now, they made an attempt to sign. We've done this episode before.
I know.
They made an attempt to sign 3 players. They got so far as Carter saying, I think things are going on. I'm like, clear your schedule on this. And he's telling us, I never get told things. And he got told something on this one. Like, by all accounts, they got done dirty hardcore by Berterame. And look, I mean, it happens. So like, yeah, it feels like a punt and you feel like, oh, they didn't maximize the opportunity. But you know what? Sometimes things just go wrong and it's nobody's fault in any one of those situations. And this very much sounds like the further we get away from it, the more you have the opportunity to not be emotional in the moment of, this screwed up. The more you look back on it in hindsight, it really just does feel like the universe conspired against, to a certain extent, Chris Albright in the front office in the summer window. And I base that on the fact that they went and they signed who we all consider to be a better player, a more electric player immediately, as before the offseason even fully started. So I don't want to relitigate this, that we punted anything or that they didn't maximize their opportunity to win last year. They made every goddamn effort they could. They used the SEI spot to sign an equivalent player on salary wise to Matt Miazga. Ownership didn't have to do that. The front office didn't have to do that. They could have just said, you know what, this sucks, but we like the people we have in the building, even knowing it was going to cause a problem for them in the here and now with salaries and things like that. So no, I'm like,
but they seem to be in a worse position than they were in the summer.
Are they? They got the deal done. And
in the summer, they were able to sign a DP.
Yeah.
And they were able to sign Teenage Hadebi.
Okay.
And
now
Cheeto.
It seems like they need to, now that they've signed a DP, all that they can do now is shed salary.
Yeah, because look, if you look at it, that they need $3 million from Barreal. If you don't get that money, let's say there is no market for Barreal, you send him out on loan because he refuses to play here. That gets you kind of back to his even budget charge. You still got to cut $3 million, so that is buying out Sergio Santos.
They'll get $2 million for going the U22 2DP model.
Or they'll just tag Luka as a DP.
So that you don't
So play Barreal. I'm not buy out Santos and play Barreal. I'm out. This is so immensely solvable because I'm looking at we have to trade DeAndre Yedlin. We've got to cut Santos.
They don't have to do that. But
okay, play Barreal. This is so easy.
We're getting heated on an offseason episode.
So easy.
What was our bitch last year? It was depth. Would you rather have Barreal or would you rather have 3 or 4 U22 players on the roster as depth?
Why didn't he sign 3 U22 players last year if it was something that they ever intended to do?
I don't know.
They could have signed.
Well, we know they were after
U22s for every cent of Teenage Hadebi's salary.
Well, do you want Teenage Hadebi around or not? I kind of want Teenage Hadebi around.
Now I do because we don't have Cheeto and Ian Murphy.
we shed 2 other really good players, one of which was only here for 6 months.
Yeah, we had problems with depth last year, but now they don't have a starting lineup, and there doesn't seem to be a clear path to get one because Brett Halsey's going to start at left back.
No.
Yes.
what's his face? Yedlin and Orishano can play there, and Kubo can play up top. We're in no worse position than we were. We are in no worse position than we were middle of last year. In fact, we're in a better position because we've got Denke coming onto this team.
If Lucho stays.
If Lucho stays. If Lucho doesn't stay, then they can go out and find another DP. Like they'll have another DP spot available. And if Lucho doesn't stay, you're going to get some GAM transfer conversion, at least something for selling him, most likely.
Barreal as a DP, heard.
What's next?
That's what Matt Doyle suggested.
That's a dumb idea.
I think it's a dumb idea too. But I will
salary
say,
cap hell does weird things to people.
maybe just sign. Yeah, I'd be. I know conceptually it's the same thing, but I'd feel better for whatever reason about Luca carrying the DP tag and Barreal just being on the team.
Because the last photo we have of Barreal is him in a hospital bed. I don't want I'm not giving someone a DP tag when they're. No.
I mean, there's more than a few people that would make Miazga a DP if you let them. So, okay, let's move on to this next one, because this is if that was a divisive topic, this one will bring us together. The Columbus Crew is going to play a match in Cleveland, and not just any old match, a regular season MLS match against, you already know it, Inter Miami.
Model law giveth, and then you taketh Model law away.
Can we pass Modell's law for like counties or cities?
It already applies to that. That's a
good point.
That's
a good point.
The whole point of the law. Yeah,
that's Cleveland's position, and the Crew are suing. The Crew sued them. Not the Crew. Sorry, the Browns, who share ownership with the Crew, sued the city of Cleveland to declare Modell's law unconstitutional,
so that they can move 15 miles outside of town.
Yeah,
right.
In their brand new, looks like a warehouse stadium.
Love it. But I will say it's not all negative, Crew fans. There are some benefits that were highlighted. Please read some of these benefits, Chief.
This is the best thing ever. So here are the benefits for Columbus Crew fans. Be part of the first MLS match in Northeast Ohio.
Whoa!
Wow, man, that I just, it moves when I hear that I can set geographic history. And I want it noted here that they say the first MLS match in Northeast
League
Ohio.
match.
MLS League. No, just because
hasn't Crew played Open Cup in like Akron?
Yes.
That wouldn't be an MLS match.
I know. That's why it's an MLS League match.
Right.
But an MLS team playing is kind of an MLS match.
I note that they say it's part of the first. They don't say it's the only or the last.
But they do later. But yeah, continue.
Right. Celebrate the beautiful game with up to 68,000 soccer fans. I like. They didn't say celebrate the beautiful game with 68,000 fans. With up to. I like the fact they're being realistic here.
It may or may not sell out. Who's to say?
This is great. Dog Pound Drive will host a black and gold pre-match party. Oh man, I was on the fence about having to drive up to to Cleveland to watch this game, but you're telling me the Dog Pound Drive will be hosting a black and gold pre-match party? Number one, first off, right here. First note. I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that anyone associated with the Cleveland Browns or the Dog Pound probably doesn't own a single piece of black and gold clothing in their entire household. I'm just gonna.
Somebody should show up in a Steelers jersey.
Oh, no doubt.
I thought it was the black and gold party.
It's the black and gold party. Ben Roethlisberger, he doesn't play here. Miami, Ohio. Come on. I thought you guys would love this shit.
I want to say Columbus tends to lean towards Steelers. Yes?
I think there's
Bengals and Browns. It's a 50-50 split.
Yeah, I think if anything, they lean slightly brown, although I do. Yeah. There is a significant Steelers fan population in Columbus, but you got to go to like Youngstown before it's like this is a lean of Steelers fans.
Steubenville, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That part of the state we just really don't acknowledge. So yeah, you get invited to a black and gold pre-match
where
party.
They don't cook their cheese on their pizza.
It's weird.
They put the cheese on after.
Why not?
Cold. Experience Crew and Browns pre-match traditions. What are the Browns pre-match traditions? Like what?
The embarrassing
drink
barking thing they do.
Or like we just drink liquor straight out of the bottle to numb the pain of what we're about to watch.
It's sign a new quarterback. That's right. The pre-match
Here's
tradition.
The pre-match tradition. We're going to cut Baker Mayfield for nothing and sign a sexual predator. That's what we're going to do.
I remember the first time I saw the pregame, a Browns game on TV where they were doing the barking before the game.
Yes.
And like I made the same face that like James Harden was making when he saw the haka dance on a basketball court the first time.
Still one of my favorite photos of all times. Have you guys seen the sad big dog photo from after the Browns moved back in the 90s?
Yeah.
It's just like this. It's this grown man in a dog mask with like milk bone chips still in his beard, just sadly standing in an empty stadium watching his team prepare to leave for Baltimore.
The dog pound image that I always remember, especially as it relates to this, is they did a tifo of sorts in the dog pound many years ago, but they printed it for the fans, obviously, but then they deployed a third of it upside down. So that was really good. So they're already experts at deploying tifo.
They love this. And then finally, the last benefit for Columbus Crew fans. Crew supporters will take over the iconic dog pound.
You will sit in this section of the stadium.
have they said there will be no pink allowed in the dog pound or?
Surely not. In fact, pink may be encouraged. I imagine Inter Miami jerseys will be given away as you enter the stadium. It's
I've got some fun ideas for what we can do. Okay. If we want to cause some mischief around here, and if I'm still unemployed when this game rolls around, we may have some fun with this.
What do you got?
Idea number one. We send some people up to the municipal lots where all the tailgating happens, collecting petition signatures to move the Crew to Columbus.
That's a really good idea.
All right. Idea number two. In advance of the game, we also start online petitions and start hiring bots to drive the narrative, no black and gold allowed in Cleveland Browns Stadium.
I really like that.
Idea number three.
Okay.
We dress up as Crew fans and go to lower.com field on the date of the match and try to get ourselves on local media as angry Crew fans, confused that the game isn't where it's supposed to be.
I bought my Miami tickets. These were expensive. Why is the game in Cleveland?
All right. And idea number five, and this is my favorite. Start a AstroTurf campaign online encouraging Crew fans to cancel their season tickets and boycott the Crew in the hopes that this will eventually force the team to move someplace else.
Do we today start a Save the Crew movement? And this is the move, is that we get everybody to stop financially supporting them?
We had Save the Crew already, where it's hashtag cancel the Crew. Cancel the Crew. Cancel your season tickets. Throw away your merch. Like there was this dude that used to do a lot of content down in Louisville back in the USL days.
Oh yeah.
And good dude, met him a couple times back, during the kinder, gentler times where like the fan base for all these teams was also small, that we all knew each other. The internet trolls all knew each other personally. Yes. For various like teams and fan bases. So there was this dude that used to be a big Lou City supporter. And what was the controversy they went through? There was like some sexual harassment things, or there was something.
Yeah.
You talking about with the women's team?
Yeah,
it might have been with the women's.
James O'Connor.
James O'Connor like didn't.
Yes, that's it.
Didn't. There was he got some complaints about a coach and just kind of ignored them. Yep.
Yes.
Very
many
serious
such
enough.
cases.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. But what this fan did was he boxed up all of his Lou City gear and just dropped it off at the team shop in a box, and then took a picture of himself, took a picture of it there, but like it was in front of the team store window. So his own reflection of him taking the photo was in the picture, which is just phenomenal.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
But yeah, cancel the crew, cancel your tickets. We're going to have a big thing where we, encourage fans to drive all of their crew gear back to the team store and drop it off until they reverse this decision, and see if we can really, really cause some problems in the fan base. The Nordecki is going along with this. I think that they have lost their leadership mandate as Columbus Crew fan leaders by agreeing and capitulating to this. So yeah, let's start a rival crew group that actually will fight back against the front office.
Here's a question.
The
Sudecki.
Given that Save the Crew was, by and large, by all appearances, if not controlled, at least significantly steered by, members of the current ownership group and corporate lobbyists and state house lobbyists and massive corporate, like worldwide corporate law firms. Is this the problem? Is this kind of the chickens coming home to roost? Like, you sell your soul, you become essentially, captive to the special interests, and this is what you end up with, and with no ability to like stand up to it.
Or like, there was during the Save the Crew campaign, there were backroom meetings. It was like, you're going to get your soccer team back, but at some point I'm going to ask you for a favor, and you're not going to have the ability to say no to this. We understand this, right? And then it was like, hey, we're going to start playing matches in Cleveland. Remember when you got your team back? You can go away just like that. Unless you play ball, kids.
You get them desperate enough, you say, hey, we will fund you, we'll back you. But you need to understand that the eventual plan here is 50-50 Columbus, Cleveland.
And there were some people in a smoke-filled room and said, you know what? It's better than losing our team.
Yep.
And now they're afraid to come clean.
Next time you guys go to, because I won't be going. Next time you guys go to lower.com and you're doing that march to the stadium. I'm not talking about you guys because you guys aren't going either. I'm putting my foot down.
No.
But if you're a listener, next time you're walking to the stadium, take a look at the tents, the logos on the tents of the tailgate, and
just take a look. Actually,
it's just interesting.
It occurs to me now that whatever plan number it was of go to Columbus and pose as aggrieved fans, like confused why the game isn't being held here. Grayson is the perfect person to do this because no one's seen his face.
That's actually really good.
You went to Ohio State at one point, so you have Columbus ties.
You can blend in.
You know how to speak. You know how to speak their language. You know how to interact with the Columbus individual.
Take on a Columbus accent. Yeah.
Yeah, and if anyone is watching TV and they're like, "Hey, I recognize that voice," they'd have to out themselves as an FC Cincinnati supporter, which can be dangerous in Columbus. So they're not going to. No one's going to dime you out here.
Yeah, I am kind of a day walker up there.
I like this idea.
This is really
This is such low-hanging fruit for the assignment desk, too. Dude. You just call them and you say, hey, I got a great story for you. My family came into town. They don't realize the game is in Cleveland. We were planning on going down. Do you want to interview us? Because we're really mad about this. One TV station will bite on this. I know how these people work.
Yes.
You guys,
it's such a good visual.
You listeners, you just know me as kind of this fearless truth-telling man of the people. You would be shocked the places I could warp myself into in Columbus.
I love this idea. Grayson has a second life up in Columbus where it's like, it's like Mr. Papa Giorgio, your money's no good here.
I love this play. Chief, the Sudecki needs to be a Twitter account yesterday.
Yeah.
And just as the true ultras of lower.com field stadium.
I think what it needs to start with is a notes app of some sort, being really mad at the Nordecki for not truly speaking on behalf of crew fans and then that turns into a movement. How do you get Russian bots doing something? Like, how much does it cost to get bots to start driving a conversation in some way?
We should set up a Russian bot Patreon tier.
Yeah. Do you want to fund a Russian bot?
Better use of the Gold Star money than buying a bot farm from Russia.
That's our pitch for Gold Star to keep the sponsorship going into next year. So, like, what do you plan to do the money? You want to grow the podcast? You want to do more live shows? More of your away days? Absolutely not. No. What we really want to do is we want to pay a Russian bot farm to attempt to infiltrate the Columbus Crew fan base and drive a wedge among their supporters in an effort of trying to undermine the fan base.
We're going to flood every Crew tweet with somebody with dozens or hundreds of people just saying, like, what movie is this?
Or just repeating exactly what they tweeted, but like with 3 emojis at the end.
Yep.
Or just like click on my profile and I'll show you how upset I am. Link in bio.
I love doing a satire podcast.
Yeah.
For the record, we're only joking about all this. Yeah, I am only joking about engaging with the Russian Soviets about this.
So here's my question. So
but for real, hit me up if you know how to get in touch with people that run bot farms.
Just a thought. They said in the official announcement that this was a one-off event in Cleveland, that they do not intend to follow this up with other matches. On one hand, I don't believe them, but then on the second, I also think that like this is malpractice, even more so if it is just a one-off.
You sell 68,000 fucking tickets to a soccer match, and you're going to be like, you know what? I'm never doing that again. I hate making money.
But like, I think it makes more sense if you try to sell it to Crew fans of like, Crew is the team of Ohio. We will continue to outreach, other cities, other communities in Ohio. One Ohio, we're Ohio's team. This means we have to do these games and we'll absolutely accommodate you where we can. But this is the plan going forward. We want to have more games all around Ohio. That's like more justifiable to me than just like, oh no, we only got Messi for one more year, so we're just going to cash in hard.
Yeah. But I mean, like we had this conversation a long time ago when the Crew rebranded. The move was to make them the Ohio Crew and try to tap into whatever the Buckeye fan base is. Get your colors as scarlet and gray, and you can do the old OHIO nonsense and just tap into all that.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm aware.
Be weird to do a different chant, I think, there. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Do we ever think that the Crew would ever leave Columbus completely? Like, is this testing the waters for a full relocation?
I don't really think so. I mean, maybe you see like way down the line a relocation or a partial relocation.
Yeah.
But like maybe if the Browns get that new, stadium complex in the suburbs of Cleveland, they see some value in having Crew games there at least sometimes. Given the amount of public money that went toward construction of lower.com, I know some people in media like to shit on Cincinnati for like asking for $5 million in the state budget here and there. But given the amount of public money that went into lower.com, I think there'd be a shitstorm if like 3 years from now they were like, this is the 2-team stadium now and we're going to Cleveland.
Yeah. Right.
Here's where I could see it. I don't think they're going to relocate. I would be unsurprised if it didn't turn into a thing where you get 17 home games in MLS.
Yeah.
Plus, let's just make it around 20 between other types of home dates that you get for your team. It wouldn't surprise me if 3 to 4 of those per year were in Cleveland, just because they share owners with the Cleveland Browns, makes money. As long as people are buying tickets to them up in Cleveland and you've got access to a facility that's 68,000 and you can tap into a different market. I just don't see this happening only once.
It would be stupid not to like it would be stupid not to do whatever you can. Like being serious right now, it'd be stupid not to do whatever you can to get as much of that Cleveland market to be Crew fans as you can, especially given that, they're trying to get a women's team, for example, right?
Right.
Like people in Cleveland are trying to build a soccer fan community. They're not going to get an MLS team anytime soon. So if it takes, throwing a couple of games a year up there to get people in Cleveland to be more associated with the Crew, that feels like an investment that would be worth your while.
Yeah. The only way I could see them ever relocating is if they got a women's team in Columbus and there was a primary tenant that was still selling out lower.com. It would have to be something like that, where you could pull a switcheroo a little bit and say, hey, we give Columbus the women's team and the men's team moves to Cleveland full time. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but that's like a 10-year, 15-year conversation, I would say.
Yeah. And to that point, I mean, this announcement comes after the NWSL announcement.
Before we get to that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this today. What is the equivalent move?
I have this down here too. Yes.
what would the equivalent announcement be from the FC Cincinnati ownership group that would, number one, sort of replicate what it is that the Crew are doing here, and also provoke a similar reaction among the FC Cincinnati fan base? Because I have a hot take. I think that our fan base would not be nearly as hostile to this idea as the Crew are.
Of what specifically?
So here's the thing. A game at Paul Brown Stadium. Yeah. Or sorry, Paycor.
You call it Paul Brown. I like that.
It makes it a hint more sense. The equivalent is playing that game in Indianapolis.
I was going to say Indianapolis or
Pittsburgh,
Louisville
or Lexington, but there isn't really a good stadium for that.
We got Papa John Stadium for the Louisville Cardinals.
You know what we should do? We should put our version we should put a game at Ohio Stadium.
We'll play Miami at Ohio Stadium.
At Ohio Stadium.
Your team couldn't bring Messi to you. We will bring Messi to Columbus.
And we'll give free tickets to Crew season ticket holders.
Hard.
We'll give free tickets to Crew season ticket holders.
Oh, yes. I mean, yes, 100. Oh my God.
You can fit 10,000 people in a 100,000 stadium and still sell plenty of tickets.
Yeah.
Easily. God. They get free tickets and a free FCC shirt.
But you got to sign up for the mailing list so you can see what I feel like getting emails from the Crew all the time.
God, that would be so funny. Offer a free shuttle from campus and everything. It'd be perfect. It'll be great. There's no excuse.
Yeah. So let's say that we played. They announced they're playing an FC Cincinnati match in Indianapolis. They're playing Chicago Fire in Indianapolis, like a team. It was like halfway between those two. I know it's not directly equivalent because it's Messi, which I don't know that anyone gives a shit about in Cincinnati anymore. We saw enough of that guy.
If they played a game in Indianapolis, they'd have to give me my money back for that game.
So the Crew deal is included in your season ticket package.
I know what the Crew deal is.
They are offering transportation just for the listeners.
No, offering me transportation is an actual disincentive. I don't want to ride on a bus with a bunch of other people.
But they're also offering a food credit of some kind.
How much? I need to know. They're not saying it, which means it's not enough.
Not only do I not want to ride on the bus with a bunch of people, I specifically don't want to ride on a bus of a bunch of people that chose to ride on a bus to go to an FC Cincinnati game in Indianapolis.
It's a good point. It's the big downside right there. God, it could be rough. I don't know. I think fans would be upset by it.
They'd be hacked off. I don't think they would be as mad. I know that's like a sliding scale. I don't know that it would be as mad.
If they didn't give us the money back, I would want to know where the class action lawsuit is. Who do I have to call? Where do I sign up?
Is playing one game away from the stadium a violation of Modell's law? And then how many games away does it count? Like if you're playing 49% of your games away from the stadium, are you still in compliance? Like
right. Malicious compliance. You just have to go back to Columbus to host. It's like when you have to keep going back to like renew your visa every so often. You have to play one. They play of the 34 game schedule. They play 33 in Cleveland, and they go back to play one compliance game every year at lower.com.
If you go back to the season ticket member emails,
yes,
they say your season ticket membership will include 19 matches at TQL Stadium. I renewed my tickets in reliance on that representation. I don't want to sue them for fraud, but I will.
And I'll hate doing it the entire time.
I will feel so bad about it.
For what it's worth, the crew equivalent that went out to season ticket holders when they renewed did include a provision for potentially one home game.
I remember
away
that.
from
I remember
home.
that. Yeah.
So they were already thinking thoughts. The audacity of the front office to say that they never talked to the Nordecki about it, I think was a sort of a thank you to the Nordecki. Keep their hands clean because they obviously talked about it. How do you not? Okay, NWSL, according to Sportico, appears ready to award the expansion bid to the Denver ownership group that has no stadium, no land to build a stadium, and no temporary stadium plan ahead of time. Denver looks like they're going to be paying double or at least double what Boston paid just a couple of years ago, and far more than a good chunk of what the team's valuations are, according to Forbes. A wild development. The aforementioned Cleveland ownership group, which I think was technically separate from the Crew Browns ownership group, they put out a statement saying that they have officially bowed out of this. FC Cincinnati or the NWSL Cincinnati bid did not do that. Reading between some lines of Pat Brennan tweeting some things out, it would appear that since he is ready and waiting for something to go wrong with either this bid, the Boston bid, or another team somewhere along the lines, but as it stands right now, Cincinnati will be passed over in this next round of expansion. Chief, do we get a team before Boston or Denver?
Yeah, I think we do.
I like that.
Before Boston or Denver?
Yeah.
Do we get a team up and running before and playing games before they get playing games?
Before or both?
Either one.
Either. Okay.
We have a team taking the field as a women's Cincinnati team before Boston or Denver does.
Before Boston or Denver? No.
Yes.
Before Boston and Denver? Yes. I think one of the two groups will get across the finish line. I think one of the two groups will have major problems. Just because it is profoundly difficult to get a stadium built. And it's profoundly difficult to get a stadium built for a major league sport. I think they're grossly underestimating how difficult it's going to be to get a stadium built for the NWSL, which MLS doesn't make tons of money. NWSL makes less than not tons of money.
Yeah.
And it's two sports ownership groups that don't have experience in this, from what my understanding is. I'm right that the Denver group is not connected to the Rapids, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the Rapids ownership group is Stan Kroenke, who has the most experience, I think, in professional sports.
Right. So, I think that something's going to happen. I think the silence from Cincinnati's group is deafening right now. I think they're sitting waiting because they know that, hey, we're ready to go. The minute you give us the thumbs up, we can spin this thing in months. They can be ready to do this, especially in a league now where there's no draft to wait for. It's just go get players.
Yeah.
I think so. The decision, disappointing and predictable. It's a league where, like I said, the revenue streams aren't what they want to be in terms of growing the league. And, they have a problem with the fact that they, are starting to get lapped by some of the bigger European leagues for women. They've lost their first mover advantage in this space a lot. And there's only 14 teams, 12 teams in the NWSL right now?
14, and they're going to 16, right?
14 going to 16. Okay. Splitting $120 million across 14 teams. That's a lot of money for each of these teams in terms of an expansion fee. I think Denver overpaid, but I think it was solely about getting the beak wet for everyone and cashing in and for some equity of, a lot of these teams have probably spent excessively to build out and build up when revenue wasn't there. And this is a lot of people cashing in that were early movers in the league. So it is what it is. I think Cincinnati would have made a much more compelling place for the league to go. I think it would have improved the product more. But ultimately, if someone's going to overbid you by that much, and it sounds like based on the numbers I've heard, upwards of 50% higher than FC Cincinnati's bid, if it went up to 120 million, like they're saying is the top end of the Denver number. If someone's going to outbid you by 50%, okay, let me know how that works out for you to a certain extent.
Grayson, two possible alternatives. I'm curious how you'd feel about either one, or if you'd have a preference. Potentially relocating a struggling NWSL franchise. Carolina Courage comes to mind there. It may not be the most flush with cash. Or joining the USL Super League, the other Division I or top division women's professional league. Which would you prefer, or is there one that you'd absolutely want to avoid, or I don't know. What are your thoughts on those?
I think either one is a viable option. I don't love, the idea of pulling a team from another market, but I have been, I think, to the Carolina Courage. They in like Raleigh, like the Raleigh Durham area.
Yeah. They're associated with North Carolina FC, right, from the USL anyway.
So I've been to their stadium for a US Mexico Women's World Cup qualifier. And
nice.
Which was very fun atmosphere, very different, but I thought I had a great time. It's not really up to the standard of what these other teams have, and of what you would hope, or what Louisville has, or what you hope like Boston and Denver end up building, right? So that's a place that seems that they would either need to, or you'd want them to, significantly invest in their facilities, which are great for all types of purposes. Like they do all types of, soccer kind of events there. And I'm sure they're, and it's nice that there's it is kind of like a compound. It is a good question, right? Are you going to invest and get up to par with the rest of the league?
Right.
Or are you going to sell to somebody who will, or are you going to sell and move to another market? Like, I'm not a huge fan of taking another market's team, but you do need to make sure that everybody is meeting kind of a minimum standard. And then separately, USL Super League, technically it's a Division I rated league.
Yeah.
Technically. It'd be cheap to get into. And you could build a juggernaut in that league with the amount of money that they were and not spend a fraction of what you were about to spend on NWSL. You could
$60 million.
You could poach all these NWSL players, if they're willing to move.
Yeah.
So the argument for joining the USL Super League, and their teams, I'm gonna read off to you the cities they're playing in right now.
I could name maybe 3 teams.
All right, that's funny. How many teams can you name from the USL Super League? Let's go here.
Me?
Any one of you.
Oh,
Washington,
God.
D.C.
Okay, there is the DC. Do you know what they're called?
No.
DC Power FC playing
That's
at Audi
right.
Field.
They changed their logo recently.
Tampa.
Sunshine.
The Tampa Bay Sun FC playing at Riverfront Stadium in Tampa, which
Classic.
I have no idea what that is.
Why
Charlotte.
not?
They're not Charlotte. They're the Carolina Ascent FC playing in Charlotte, but yes.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, is there a team in Lexington?
There is. Lexington SC.
Indy.
Indy 11 is a future team for the USL Super League.
I thought that was true. I'm probably.
There's got to be a Los Angeles team.
There is not a Los Angeles team.
Wow. Is there San Antonio?
The ones you have missed right now: Brooklyn FC.
Okay.
In Brooklyn, New York. Dallas Trinity FC.
Huh.
Fort Lauderdale United FC.
I knew there was another Florida team.
And the Spokane Zephyr FC in Spokane, Washington.
Jesus.
The powerhouse of cities right here.
There isn't anybody near them.
Right.
Although
so
I'll say this. They got into New York City before MLS did.
That's absolutely true. They're one of the first in the 5 boroughs. All right, here are the planned USL Super League teams.
Okay.
Indy 11
Sure.
in Indianapolis. Sporting Club Jacksonville in Jacksonville.
I think I said Jacksonville as we were chatting.
Yeah. Madison Women's Pro Soccer, Madison, Wisconsin.
Almost said Madison, yep.
Palm Beach County. Rogers, Arkansas. Ozark United FC.
Huh.
Boise, Idaho. East Ridge, Tennessee. Chattanooga. Oakland, California. Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix Rising is going to join. And then Tucson, Arizona. So not even a planned team in LA. The reason you would consider joining USL Super League is if you think at some point that there is going to be a merger or an acquisition of Super League by NWSL or vice versa. This was how the Bengals, the ABA and the NBA. This is how the Bengals, I believe, joined the NFL as they remember the AFL and came into the NFL via the AFL.
Yes.
There is a proud history in this country of sports league mergers. The World Hockey Association was how I believe the Calgary Flames, maybe, or there were 2 Canadian teams that joined the NHL out of the World Hockey Association that the Cincinnati Stingers win. Maybe the Edmonton Oilers too. Either way, proud tradition in this country of sports league mergers. And if you think there's a merger that is inevitable, you buy the league that's got the lower expansion fee, get in there, and make yourself an inevitable partner for whenever a merger happens or a buyout happens. That would be the argument for it. The argument against it is this league looks garbage, like flat out compared to NWSL. Their media deal is non-existent. I think they have something where some games are on Peacock as opposed to linear TV and with Amazon like NWSL does. I don't know. I would not consider the USL. They can say they have D1 sanctioning. It is D1 in name only. Like it is a gulf of difference between the NWSL and the USL Super League.
I only bring it up because it is essentially what we did with the men's team. So there's precedent to building something that can't be denied.
It's a little different, but fair enough. Yeah. I think I'm disappointed that didn't come, but I think where we're leaving it is that, I think this is a stay tuned.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is a funny alternate timeline look as to, this is what happens when you lose one of these bids. We didn't really have to experience this in Cincinnati with the men's team, but this kind of sucks.
It's true. Also, not sure how closely people are paying attention. Obviously, Boss Nation had its horrific marketing unveiling and all of that, which has fallen flat on its face. And they've said that they're going to go back to the drawing board on it. TBD if they change it. But maybe more concerning, their initial plan was to renovate a historic stadium in Boston, and that has run into a million roadblocks for them. So it is not as clear cut as to what they're actually going to be able to do in terms of a stadium.
Yeah, I think
Boston.
I'm not close enough to it, but they have had some setbacks apparently in a lawsuit regarding the planned renovations to the stadium. I read in an article yesterday that their lawyers have argued to the court that like if they don't get the go ahead by March, it might torpedo their whole deal. Sometimes I don't know. That feels like a thing that you say.
Yeah. Sure.
So we'll see.
Rule number one: rule number one: always add a ticking clock to things.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's the language somewhere on some piece of paper that they would be able to revise should certain deadlines come up. But yeah,
but we'll see where they go.
And in that sense, maybe there's some skullduggery in place with FC Cincinnati here that like we are the sword or the stick as opposed to the carrot that helps get some of these other teams across the line, as long as it's like, well, if you don't get it done, we've got Cincinnati ready to go and ready to pay.
We'll just be what Los Angeles was to the NFL for 25 years.
Or
we'll move
London,
them back.
What London is right now. It's like, you don't get that stadium deal done. How does the London Bengals sound?
There we go. All right. That's where we're going to have to leave it for there. Let's head on over to part 2 where we'll answer a couple of Patreon questions and we'll get you out of here. And before we get to the next part of the episode, I want to tell you about our friends over at Cincy Shirts, as if you need me to tell you about them. Let's be real. If you are in the market for a t-shirt, dare I say, a Cincinnati-themed t-shirt, why are you looking anywhere else other than Cincy Shirts? They've got the best stuff. They've got awesome Reds, Bengals, FC Cincinnati gear. They've got all sorts of gear for your whatever you got going on. Okay. That's how big and broad it is. You've got an old timey classic amusement park that is your favorite from the Cincinnati area. I bet you they got a t-shirt about it. Did one of your old favorite franchises fold, or maybe a franchise you never got to see play fold? I bet you they've got a t-shirt for them. It's a really cool selection. I got to tell you, in store is maybe the best way to go. They will print on site. You didn't hear it from me, but you can work out some special arrangements. Say you've got a design you really like, but you want it on the back of a shirt. I bet you could talk them into it. Okay. It's a good time. It's a really, really good shop. They're good people over there. You can find them in Loveland. You can find them in Oakley Hyde Park, and you can find them in Northern Kentucky. And they print online as well. They'll ship to you anywhere. Now, here's the best part. They sell gear for the post. That's right. You want an Opie shirt? They've got that. You want a one of the 12 shirt? They got that. You want to let folks know how you feel about San Diego? Boy, there is a shirt to show people that, okay? Check them out, Cincy Shirts. When you're there, use the promo code ThePostCincy. All one word, all caps. They'll knock 10% off of the entire order. That works on post gear as well. So please do not buy our stuff at full price, okay? Use the code, knock a couple bucks off for yourself. So thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring this episode. Thank you, listener, for using the code. All right, we are back, and to round us out as we head into the holiday season, I've got a couple of Patreon questions from the lovely and very attractive patrons over on the Patreon for $2 a month. They financially support us, they emotionally support us, and they allow the show to continue. And as a perk, they get to ask a question that gets read here on the air. And I will start off with Andrew McCormick's question because it is very on brand. He asks, if, brackets, when, the Crew eventually relocate to Cleveland, Will we have to consider renaming the rivalry to something more relevant to Ohio as a whole? Good question. We could call it the Columbus Memorial Cup.
The Save the Crew Cup.
You passed the Hell is Real sign going to Cleveland too.
That's a good point. It's just a little more biased to our direction, but yeah.
Well, hell is realer.
Thank God they're gone.
Right. Get a load of those assholes. There's the rivalry between Toledo and Bowling Green State University is the Battle of I-75. The I-71 Derby.
I am not a fan of when rivalries are named after highways. To me, it is.
Look at Kevin here, all liberal urbanist. Moderator on r / fuck cars. Glorifying car brain culture.
I did listen to a Strong Towns podcast this morning.
There we
go. I'm not far off, Chief. No, it just feels so easy. Like it's too easy. Like the I-4 between whatever the Florida schools are. It's too easy. It's too easy.
Mansfield is real.
Mansfield's fake. Just deny the existence.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
I've always felt like a kinship with Cleveland. I genuinely do not like the city of Columbus. I feel like Cincinnati and Cleveland are like the forgotten cities, and they have a lot more in common with each other than what Columbus has going on.
Cleveland gets more shine nationally, and that bothers me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But then, like, what are the things people know Cleveland for? It's like
they set
Factory
the river
of Sadness, river set on fire.
Yeah, but think about this. Here's why I will always hate the city of Cleveland. Okay. Is that if you had LeBron James on in your city, a Hall of Fame, Mount Rushmore of basketball talent, won a title in your city. The Browns are a factory of sadness, but like spoiler alert, so are the Bengals 99.9% of the time. Well, most football teams are a factory of sadness. They exist to make you miserable. That's what the NFL is. That's what NFL fandom is. On baseball, and I'll always be jealous of this, if you want to buy a Cleveland Indians / Guardians uniform, like a jersey to wear to the games, and you don't know what player to get, 99 Rick Vaughn always plays, or Pedro Serrano, or Lou Brown, the manager, Willie Mays Hayes. Like that movie series alone, like makes being an Indians Guardians fan just cooler. You have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We've got nothing to compete with that down here.
It's tough.
The last show set in Cincinnati was WKRP. They had the Drew Carey show.
Harry's Law.
The streets remember Harry's Law. Arnold's Bar has never looked nicer than it did on that show.
There is not a robust college athletics scene in Cleveland.
I mean, neither is there in Cincinnati lately.
Wow, come on. People are at least aware of a couple of our schools.
Xavier lost in overtime again tonight, and I'm just mad.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't set in Cincinnati, but there was a show called John from Cincinnati.
That was like the worst show HBO has ever produced.
First of all, it was not the worst show that HBO ever produced. It's like the same people that made Deadwood. People just didn't get it. They were. It's true that it only lasted a season, so it never got a chance to like really take off. But
the good place called Cincinnati a middle place. That was a cool pop culture moment. All right, I got another question here for you. Timothy Meadows asks, or says, I should say, I am a huge FCC fan from Lexington, Kentucky area. With getting local soccer, I was pumped. I joined the SG and am VP currently. Wow. Okay. Didn't know we were talking to a celebrity. You guys have been there, done that. what advice do you have for a new club's SG in the USL Championship? Also, go fuck yourself, Louisville.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that energy.
Good question.
Man, we do an entire episode on this.
Yeah, we easily could.
I could give you 1,000 things not to do.
that might actually be more helpful.
How about two?
A two?
Two right now.
Two right now. All right, 2 pieces of advice. Number 1, you will hear from Kevin's referred to this as the pirate code of like how supporters culture works. You will hear that you shouldn't get too cozy with your front office. You shouldn't, you're independent supporters. Don't do anything that like stops you from being independent. Sure, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, that makes this process go more smoothly. Then you don't always have to agree with the front office. You don't always have to agree with their decision, but you always remember it's a business for them. It's a hobby for you, and approach every interaction like that, respecting the fact that they have a job to do. You're trying to have fun. You're trying to make something that's a passion project for you, and never, ever view them as the enemy. View them as partners and collaborators who occasionally just disagree because you have different goals in mind sometimes for how soccer should work. And don't make them the enemy. Make them your partner. Treat them that way and keep communication lines open. Be flexible. And for the love of God, be willing to understand that they have to make money doing this, or else this whole party's for nothing.
Yeah.
And they're going to do things that piss you off because you want it to be pure and soccer and footy and fun, and you want it to be the fans' way. They've got to make cash. They've got to make payroll. They've got to sign players. So look for ways you can work together, and always be respectful of the fact that you and them exist in this playing field, not as equals, but like not equal partners that kind of have a similar view as to what the end goal is, but not always aligned in how to get there. That would be honestly my biggest piece of advice. And man, did Max, you, Kevin, Chris, and a lot of other people, did we eat a couple platefuls, Jared eat a couple platefuls of shit from people, because you sometimes have to make decisions that are, we need to keep the working relationship with the front office going.
Yeah.
The other piece of advice I'd give, and this may sound cliche, believe it with all my heart. If it ain't fun, stop doing it. The number 1 goal of this is to have fun. Don't be too serious. Don't take this too serious. There is no rule so important that it's worth not having fun for. The goal is not to see who suffers as a fan the most. The goal is to have fun and make this experience joyful. And if you do that, you have fun, you do all that sort of stuff, you're going to succeed in this no matter how everything else goes. Here's your free third one, and this is quick. Always be cognizant of the fact that just because you were there first or that you're a leader doesn't mean that other people don't have better ideas and that new blood isn't needed to keep refreshing things. So know when it's time to get out of the way, and always be thinking about cultivating the next generation of leadership with your SG.
Yeah. My little piece here would be I've always imagined SGs as sort of the union equivalent within the company. Like you want the team to do well, but you're there to represent your members and get the most you can for your members. And your union is only as strong as you have a lot of members. So having an SG of 5 people is worthless. Having an SG of 200 people, you now have a force, a volume of people that the front office has to listen to, because if they piss you off and alienate you, they're dealing with a huge chunk of their customer base that is ready to walk away, and the most hardcore fans. So recruit, make sure your members are happy, try to find ways to make it fun for your members. And yeah, I think cultivating a population of members is key to accomplishing anything.
And fuck Louisville too.
And
always
fuck Louisville.
Always and
that's
forever.
A great piece of advice there. And I think that is going to do it for today. So Chief,
Grayson had no advice for the SGs there.
So here's my advice. Don't get involved.
It might be too late for the VP.
Just kind of wait for a few years, let other people do all the work, kind of look around and be like, all right, who's done the best job? You jump right in, and then decide now I'm the table setter for the entire fan base.
So there you go, Tim.
There,
try that
out.
Or that. Oh God. All right, Chief, get us out of here.
Special one tonight. Fuck Denver.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. Also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.